Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's going on, Fantasy Champs? All right, we're officially in the off season now. No more. My name is Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me as always, by the way. No more.
What's up?
No more off season stuff going on. May, June, most of July. Two and a half. I would say 2.5 months off until training camps start. So enjoy your vacations. Enjoy your time off. And listen to podcasts to prepare for your draft because you're going to do 100 mock drafts in this time. I finished the show preparations for the next 3 months.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so we
A
have
lot of mock drafts.
12 mock drafts on tap.
Holy cow.
And I love it. So we'll be prepping. You'll be prepping. Our home league's gonna have a pick soon.
Are we gonna get on that, by the way? For your dynasty leagues? Because the only leagues that are slacking in are
Relax.
mostly leagues that you're in.
The draft ended Saturday.
Well, I know, but I'm in 2 leagues that the draft ended Saturday and we started the draft Sunday.
Yeah, that's a little bit ridiculous. I literally just did the draft. Did you? Oh, by the way, I made like a bunch of trades here. Are you telling me 101 for CeeDee Lamb was a bad deal?
No, I didn't see the whole trade, and then I was like kind of thinking about it. It's not a bad deal. I know if I had the 101, I'd want to keep it. I wouldn't want. It's more of our opinions, I guess, on Lamb because you're just in love with CeeDee Lamb. But I don't know. I think right now the way the dynasty community views Bihan, bro, I feel like you could have gotten maybe even more. Could have made a pitch for Chase. You might have had to give up more than the 101, but yeah.
Who has Chase?
I don't know. Or Jefferson. But you wouldn't have got Jefferson.
I'd love a share at Chase. Right now, according to the ECR Dynasty rankings on Fantasy Pros, CeeDee Lamb is number 3. So
3 overall?
3 overall.
Holy cow.
I will say that I'm excited because I used 2 of my picks to build the receiving core, and I'm shooting for Jordan Addison.
How many picks do you have?
I had 3 first-round picks, the 101, 104, and the 107. And I used the 107 to get Debo, and I used the 101 to get CeeDee Lamb. And so now I traded back the 104 to the 105 in that same deal. So now I have the 105, and I'm gonna use it to get Jordan Addison or trade for another wide receiver.
Fair enough.
So I started with Sky Moore and George Pickens.
The 107 for Debo is a great trade. That was a great trade.
What was it? Sky Moore and George Pickens were my starting wide receivers, and now I got CeeDee Lamb and Debo.
Yeah. No, you made out good. I don't know, man. Bihan to me is he's like the new treasure. Let me see what the calculator says.
I feel like the numbers, like as soon as you draft him,
they're even, bro.
His value
54 points to 55.
His value decreases as soon as you draft him.
That's not what this says.
He's like okay, maybe not. Whatever.
But CeeDee Lamb does win by 1 point.
I'm rebuilding.
CeeDee Lamb wins.
I'm rebuilding this dynasty team. I had to get.
I'm just saying, I would want a Bihan share. That's all I'm saying.
It would have been great to have a Bihan share. It would have been great. But I got to go receivers. I have to be smart. If I kept the 101, do you know who I was taking?
Who?
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
No, you wouldn't have.
I would have taken
over Bihan.
Over Bihan.
You serious?
This is a non-Superflex league, by the way, guys. Yes.
Dude, what? Really?
Anyway, I could do a whole.
I don't even think they're freaking close.
I could do a whole podcast on our dynasty teams.
We could
working on.
Well, so this list I'm looking at, non-quarterbacks, standard league. They have Jamar Chase is the number 1 value for all players. Sorry, Jefferson is number 1. Chase is number 2. CeeDee Lamb is number 3, and 1 point behind him is Bihan at number 4.
Oh,
so I guess I guess that's fair to them.
Yeah, hey, it's how it flies.
Pick your poison.
Yeah. Okay, so this show, now that you had a nice intro of us yelling at each other about Dynasty, is going to be about the NFL draft that happened this weekend. A lot of fun things happening. It was a fun Thursday night, fun Friday, fun Saturday. I do watch the Saturday draft, even though I got roasted by many people. Why does my personal family have to roast me for watching day 3 of the NFL draft? I mean, that's where the magic happens. 72% of players in the NFL get drafted there.
Yeah, dude, I would have watched it, but I was working.
Yeah. So today we are going to try to recap everything that happened that relates to fantasy football and all the players that got drafted, and we'll give you a winner or a loser grade based on that draft selection. We're gonna try to break this down into 2 shows. So we won't talk about every single player. We're not going to go through every single round either. Probably going to be like we'll hit on the 6th, 7th round, but most of it's going to be rounds 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we can talk about the first 2 rounds on this episode, move 3, 4 next episode, and then quickly run through 5th, 6th, and 7th in that show as well. So without further ado, you ready to hop into this?
Let's do it.
I should probably introduce the normal stuff. Check out our website, fantasygyms.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcast platforms, please leave a review and share this podcast with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, like and comment down below. All right, so let's get chatting about this because I've been waiting. The NFL draft is like, whew,
yep,
it's a lot of fun.
Yep.
Last year we had A.J. Brown get traded. I would actually say this draft was boring compared to last year's draft.
It was.
But we did get an exciting top 10 because we got quarterbacks taken, which is what everyone comes here.
Some trades too. Houston trading up from 12 to 3.
So hopefully you have those details because my brain doesn't have those details. But last year A.J. Brown was traded. This year we did not have an in-draft trade of a massive player. If I was a betting man, I would have said DeAndre Hopkins, who currently still plays for the Cardinals, and their GM kind of said he's not going anywhere. So very
makes so much money.
Makes it seem bad. They're like, oh, we got to save this money. So that's very interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets cut. If he does, he'll probably go to Buffalo or Kansas City. But yeah, so we'll see what happens with D-Hop if he ends up moving at all. There is an interesting pick in the 2nd round that I want to hit on that might lead to a trade of a certain player.
Ooh.
So we'll save that for the end of the show. A little spoiler if you want to stick around. But anyway, let's talk about a few players. The first couple picks, I guess I wish I written down our projections for where quarterbacks were going to go. I think I got 2 right.
Oh,
I think I got 2 right.
I think I did too, actually.
Because you said Stroud to the Houston.
I did.
And then did you say Levis to Tennessee or Minnesota?
I said one of those teams would get a big quarterback. That's what I tweeted.
Not Stroud. Levis.
To Minnesota?
Yeah.
Or to Tennessee?
I
didn't say Levis specifically. I said one of those 2 teams would get a big quarterback. I also said Stroud would go 2 and Bryce Young would go 1. The only one I guess I thought Levis was going to go to the Colts at 4 because that's what everyone was saying. But
okay, that's right.
Wrong about that.
But anyway, so let's talk about some of these quarterbacks at the top of the class. So that first pick, 101, Panthers take Bryce Young, kind of anticipated as you could sense throughout the day on Thursday. He was going to be the first pick overall. It kind of got solidified the week of the draft. A lot of people thought Stroud would be in there. Levis was getting talked into that spot. Richardson even. So it was always going to be Bryce Young. They make these decisions way ahead of time. They probably gave him the playbook and had
they knew
meetings
a month ago that it was going to be Young.
They knew they were taking Young.
So at least a couple weeks ago.
I would say with Frank Reich and some of the pieces that they already have there in Carolina, they don't have a lot of weapons in the receiving core. So I think in the future that's going to come. In the 2nd round, we'll talk about it. They did draft. But they also have Miles Sanders and they have some other pieces that they can play with. But I think going to play for Frank Reich is a great situation for Bryce Young. it was funny because I was watching NFL Network and they interviewed, after the draft going into day 2, they interviewed Frank Reich after the game. They said, a year ago, if we had told you, when you signed Matt Ryan and the Colts were looking for a quarterback, if I had told you that you'd be coaching the Panthers right now and have the number overall pick, Bryce Young, on your football team, and you wouldn't have to worry about quarterback anymore, what would you have said? And he said, that's unbelievable. So I think he's happy with his quarterback. I think this is a winner landing spot for Bryce Young. Doesn't change. Bryce Young for me in Dynasty Superflex leagues is the 101 still. So, and the number 1.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. Most of the drafts I've seen so far, including both of the drafts I'm in, Bryce Young was the 103.
Yeah, idiots.
That's
just people pivoting.
Yeah, well, it is super interesting. And I would love him at that spot. I think Carolina is a great landing spot as well. Not to go too much into Bryce Young because we got a lot of guys to talk about.
Yep.
But you did one guy that you didn't mention that I think is also good for Young is Josh McCown, who a lot of people were rumored about him getting an OC job or even a head coaching job. Like Houston, I think, interviewed him for a head coach, and he decided to go to Carolina to be the quarterback's coach. So that coaching room on the offensive side of the ball is Frank Wright, Josh McCown. I forget who their OC is, but I know he's pretty decent. So they have a good foundational coaching room there. They might not have great receivers, but they at least have depth at that position. Their O-line is not the worst in the league. Their first-round pick last year was a left tackle. So they have some pieces on that offensive line. So it's not a bad landing spot overall, and I think I would agree with you. As much as I love Bijan, and as much as everyone does, and he's the consensus number 1 overall pick, but for both of us, I think in Dynasty Superflex leagues, we're both taking Bryce Young 101.
Yeah.
Which is a hot take, by the way.
I don't know why. But, yeah, so winner or loser for Bryce Young? I say winner.
Winner.
Okay. Like Rick said, the second overall pick with Houston, there were rumors upon rumors that they were going to trade this pick back and somebody else would take Stroud and that they wouldn't take a quarterback here. They end up taking Stroud anyway at the 1-2 and then subsequently trade for the 103 and get Will Anderson. So very
that
interesting.
Shows a indecisive drafting room.
Yeah. But so CJ Stroud gets taken to Houston, and this is where I thought he was going to go to Indianapolis. And so obviously he does not. He goes to Houston. I probably should have prepared myself a little bit more for this Houston draft selection because I didn't really think he was going to get drafted by Houston. I thought they were going to go for the Caleb Williams stuff. But I don't really love it. If I'm being honest. Like the Texans, they got rid of Brandon Cooks, right?
Correct.
They have no receivers.
They have a lot of receivers. Doesn't mean they're good ones.
Yes. Yeah. They have Dameon Pierce as their running back, who's decent. They have no offensive line. Not really a good football team. So, and Stroud,
their offensive line is actually probably they have Tunsil. Was it Laramie Tunsil?
They don't perform like that though.
And they drafted a lot of guards too.
Oh, okay.
So the offensive line's not bad, and Dameon Pierce isn't bad, but yeah, the receivers are gross. It's actually honestly it's kind of similar to Carolina, I would say. The only difference is Carolina's coaching staff I think is better and more. I mean, I know everyone loves DeMeco Ryans, but he's a defensive coach. Yeah. So he's going to a defensive coach with kind of a weak receiver room. I agree with you. I don't love the landing spot. I still like the player, CJ Stroud. I'm still taking him. But he's a guy I've also seen fall. He actually went in the 105 in the Superflex
Who's
league.
going 102? I missed that.
In Superflex?
Yeah.
It's so in the leagues that I've been in, we'll talk about these guys, but the top 3 picks have been Bijan number 1, Richardson number 2, Bryce Young number 3.
Okay.
and Stroud is either 4 or 5.
I thought we were making the assumption that Stroud was at that 2 slot, so that's why I'm kind of surprised. All right,
he's fallen.
Because I
think that's a good value.
Yeah,
But I do agree. I would say it's a loser landing spot. Houston does have, so they drafted a couple guys. They have, and again, we'll talk about some of these guys. They did draft Tank Dell, who I like. They have John Mechie coming back after not playing last year, who I like. They have Nico Collins. They signed Robert Woods. So they have a bunch of kind of middlers. Yeah. And we'll see how it plays out. But I would say it's a loser landing spot, but I'm not out on the player. It doesn't mean I'm out on the player.
Yeah. Like if you're drafting CJ Stroud in a dynasty league,
I actually think he's one of the best values because if you can get him at the 105,
exactly, yeah,
you're getting
anticipating year 1 production out of him is a strong hope.
Right.
So, but I was gonna say if CJ Stroud was getting drafted over Bryce Young after the landing spot, like I would have been like, what are you people doing?
Yeah, it wouldn't make a lot of sense.
So yeah, it makes sense where that situation is going, but it makes it even more stupid. Stealing candy from a baby. So yeah, Houston, I would say not. I'm not going to say it's a loser landing spot, but I think it's.
I don't think it's necessarily a winner.
I don't think it's a winner. I think it's median.
We're just talking about purely the landing spot.
I think if there's a chance, like just player wise, Richardson probably has the highest chance of busting, but I think Stroud, because of landing spot, has he increased his odds to bust.
Of being a bust.
Yeah. And like if he had landed with the Colts, I think that would have maybe made me feel a lot more comfortable.
His floor would be really, really high
his
as a
floor
prospect
would be really
if he
high
was
as a prospect if he went to the Colts. So anyway, third pick off the board, third offensive player off the board was Anthony Richardson, 104 to the Indianapolis Colts. This was the first shock of the draft. Stroud
Will
was
Anderson
like
kind of was too, but
Will Anderson. Well, yes, but
in
terms of not knowing, like as soon as that trade happened, it was Will Anderson.
That's true. That's true.
So like this pick right here was the first time where we were like, whoa.
Yep.
Whoa, because everyone has been saying Will Levis to the Colts for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yep.
And so Anthony Richardson to the Colts, and I said this weeks ago. I said that Richardson had a shot to go to the Colts because who coaches that team?
Yeah.
Nick Steichen.
Yep.
Who was the offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles last year.
Is it Nick or is it Steve? I don't know.
Steve Steichen? Shane Steichen?
Oh, Shane. It's Shane.
Is it Shane? I don't know. Sorry.
It's Shane.
Sorry, coach of the Colts. But he was the offensive coordinator for the Eagles last year, put together this offense with is it?
And he was the offensive coordinator for the Chargers the year Herbert broke out.
So this is a great spot for Anthony Richardson. I don't know who's going to play quarterback for them this year. If they plan on throwing Richardson out there and having him play, or having somebody play in his place, and then I think at some point in the season he will play.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to be. I don't know that it's going to be week 1. He could earn the job though. Great landing spot for him. He has a coach that knows how to deal with quarterbacks who like to run all over the field. They're going to have all kinds of designed runs for him, like they did for Jalen Hurts. This team has Jonathan Taylor. They have Anthony Richardson. I don't know if they're going to win any football games, but you're sure as hell know what they're going to do when you line up against them on Sunday.
Raven South.
Run the ball. Raven South. And
there's some good receivers on that team too. Michael Pittman.
There's a reason why, if you want to play it safe, CJ Stroud should be the second quarterback off the board in the Superflex League. If you want to play it,
hit a home run, and get year 1 production, or sooner production honestly, than everyone else. If all these guys work out, all 3 of these quarterbacks work out,
Anthony Richardson's probably
who's going to be the best quarterback in fantasy? It's going to be Anthony Richardson
because he rushes.
Right, exactly. So I get why people. I actually moved him up my board too, ahead of Stroud. I wouldn't take him over Young or even Behan. I have him as my 103, but I understand the hype because this is the best landing spot to me for a quarterback. And I actually, Chris Ballard. Dude, it's funny, the Pat McAfee show is really so much clout now. They had GMs join their show live after they made the pick. And Chris Ballard was one of them. And they were talking about Anthony Richardson, and they said this was our guy for weeks. We were really hoping that we wouldn't have to move up, and we held to our guns, and he fell to us. And he was talking about the coach too and how he coached. So you were dead on about this. He was talking about Jalen Hurts and his development. He was talking about Justin Herbert and his development. And he said, we got a guy who has an unlimited ceiling, who's going to a coach who knows how to coach quarterbacks. They said and they felt really great about it. And that's how I would feel too. Like if I was a Colts fan, I'd love to pick because Anthony Richardson to me has a 50-50 shot of being good or being a bust. But this would be the best landing spot for all the teams that needed a quarterback to work out for. So
yeah,
if he works out in this league, or if he doesn't work out in this league, it's not going to be because of the landing spot. So this is a home run landing spot.
Get ready for C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson twice a year.
Yeah, that'll be fun, and potentially Will Levis too.
Oh yeah, dude, all three, that entire freaking division. All right, let's go through some more guys. So, Bijan Robinson, he was projected to go anywhere between 8 and 12. I would say average on the mock drafters, average on all the mock drafts was around 9 or 10. So makes sense that he goes here. I think the team that took him probably was feeling like Philly might take him or another Dallas might jump up and try to take him. So I feel like they were like, okay, we're going to get Bijan. Huge draft capital for a player. Wasn't Saquon, what was he, 5 when he was drafted?
Saquon was 2nd overall.
God, Giants are so dumb. They're so dumb. Anyway, so Bijan is the highest running back to be drafted since Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
He's ridiculous. We all know what it is. He's going to get work for Atlanta. I don't think this landing spot is great for him because, like, if he went to the Eagles, the hype already for Bijan is ridiculous. If he went to the Eagles, it would be through the roof, or Dallas, or anyone else. So, to me, I look at Bijan and I'm like, this landing spot actually probably for me hurt his value just a little bit. Because he's going to get the rock 1 million times. Like we're talking Derrick Henry 400 times a year kind of production, kind of workload.
Right.
So he's going to be a top 10 running back in fantasy football this year. This is not like a maybe. He's going to be a top 10
redraft, would we say he's a first-round pick?
Yes. He probably is going to be. I would take him in the first round. So he's going to be that. But I think if
he had the potential to be like RB1 year one.
Yes, yeah, right, year one.
Yeah.
So I look at Bijan and I think, the landing spot for him, not great with Atlanta because Atlanta, they're going to run the ball. They're going to give him a lot of opportunities, but their quarterback sucks. Their offensive line sucks.
Well, their offensive line's actually not bad.
Yeah, here we go again.
Their guards are good.
Whatever. They still don't.
They have the highest paying guard in the league.
That's fine. They still don't have a great offensive line.
Okay, all right. I disagree with that. That's why I actually like the landing spot. Now it's not as good as Philly. You're right. I think Philly would have been the ideal spot. Even Dallas, maybe. But I had been saying for the whole offseason that one of the best landing spots for running back would be the Atlanta because that team runs the ball a ridiculous amount. You're right. He's gonna get like Derrick Henry level carries. And yes, the offense isn't great, but the opportunity to be the guy right away is there for Atlanta. And they have pieces. I know you don't like their offensive line, but their interior offensive line, at least, is pretty good, which matters more for running back than tackles.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. They have the pieces there offensively. They just don't have a quarterback. And Arthur Smith comes from Tennessee. He came from the Derrick Henry offense. We've seen what they've used with Cordell Patterson and Tyler Algier. They're going to give him the rock 300 plus times year one. He's going to be a true workhorse. There's not many in the league like that. So I do like the landing spot because like Dallas has a better offense, but would he have gotten 350 touches year one? Mm-hmm. I don't think so. I think they would use Tony Pollard and mix it up. Even Philadelphia, you could make the argument if he went to Philly, he might not get all those touches because it's Philly and they'll use Kenneth Gainwell and mix it around a little bit. With Atlanta, to me, I think he's going to get 300 plus touches year one. He'll be an RB1 year one. And he's going to make even a case for being a top 5 running back year one.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I think it's a winner landing spot. It could have been better.
You know what? To be honest with
you,
you, any spot for him would have been a winner because he was going to get the workload regardless. He's a top 12 running back.
I mean, if he went to like the Colts or the Jets or something.
Well, yes, of course.
The Seahawks.
Rick. Are you really nervous if Behan went to the Jets? Would you be like, was that like Jonathan Taylor? Yes, I'd be like, what the hell? But like Breece Hall coming off an ACL injury. I know you love him, but like Behan is way better than Breece Hall.
I don't know, bro. I like Breece Hall. I mean, coming off an ACL, yeah, you're
right. But anyway, all right, let's talk about some other guys. Another shock pick, Jahmyr Gibbs, 112. We do have to get moving, so I don't even know if we're going to finish the second round. We're just in the first still, I guess.
We'll just talk about guys. We spent too much time on the top guys.
But Jahmyr Gibbs is the biggest shock, I think, of the first round because I was like sitting there and like Anthony Richardson, I was like, whoa, first shock. Massive
overall.
Shock wave.
Especially for a team that had two good running backs.
Hey, Lions, you're really not that dumb, are you? And then they keep like, I want to root for you. You make me want to root for you, and then you do this.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Now, I will say, not a bad landing spot. Montgomery's going to play the Jamal Williams. Not even. I don't think he can play that role because he's not a similar running back. But he's going to get the rock. They're going to try to like inside runs and goal line situations. Is probably going to be David Montgomery. But Jahmyr Gibbs comes into this situation. Now, at first, I was like, "What the hell?"
Right?
Like, it's Swift and Gibbs, and like, what are we going to do? They're going to utilize Jahmyr Gibbs similar to how New Orleans utilized Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram. I know I bring that up on this show all the time.
But they actually will.
They actually will do this.
Yep.
So everyone talked about Jahmyr Gibbs. His comp was Alvin Kamara. That's what he is going to be for the Detroit Lions. And so I expect 200 to 225 carries for David Montgomery. I expect him to score touchdowns. I expect him to be in those situations. Jahmyr Gibbs is probably going to reach 175 to 190 in terms of rushing attempts, but he's going to get a heck of a lot of pass catching work, especially with that non-cannon of an arm from Jared Goff.
Mr. Dump-Off.
Mr. Dump-Off over there. So great spot for Jahmyr Gibbs. He's a top 12 pick at running back as well, so he's a guy that I would suggest is going to finish at minimum top 15. So this guy, if you're not really in on drafting Behan in redraft leagues in the first round, this is a guy that I would look at in the second round as a potential fall in terms of rookies. And I would take him anywhere in the second round if you could. I think that's where he's ultimately going to end up going because of the draft capital. But like, he was drafted 12 to a football team that likes to run the ball and likes to dump it off. Like, that's clear victory for Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah. For sure. And I didn't mention this with Behan, but I will just quickly. Guys who are running backs in the last 10 years who were drafted in the top 10. Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, Ezekiel Elliott, Todd Gurley, Leonard Fournette, which is probably the worst of the group. And I think there's one more guy in there who was a top 10 pick. No, I think that's it. So, but of those list of guys, they were all like top 5 running backs at some point in their careers. And Behan is probably going to be that guy. And I think Gibbs, being at number 12, falls right outside of that category. And you're right, the landing spot is, at first it was disgusting. And I still don't like the pick for the Lions, but it's better with Swift out of the picture, and he's going to play that Alvin Kamara role. I like the player. He's a pass-catching running back. He'll probably be, I mean, remember how we did a way too early 23 redraft mock draft, or like our projected first and second round.
Yeah.
And there were some like question marks about some guys being there.
Yeah.
I think Gibbs and Robinson will go in the first and second round probably in redraft because of just how high they went. Or maybe Gibbs is maybe a third rounder, but I could see him being like a second round pick.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I just gave up the bag of what I would do.
Yeah,
it's cheaper. It's cheaper
right.
than Behan. So
no, that's fair.
All right, then we got a flurry of wide receivers. So not an offensive player wasn't taken for 8 more picks. A lot of defensive
4
guys.
straight receivers, though.
4 straight receivers. Very interesting.
Kind of how they were scouted, right? Like
20,
they
21, 22, 23. Yeah, exactly how they were scouted.
Like we didn't really. JSN felt like the clear one, but it felt like you could have mixed and matched with any of these 4 guys.
Yeah. So you have JSN first, Quentin Johnston second, Zay Flowers third, and then Jordan Addison fourth. So that, like, Rick and I actually had Quentin Johnston as our second best receiver for a little bit in our pre-draft rankings, and then before the draft we actually swapped Zay and Johnston. But really interesting selection. I was convinced before the draft that the only wide receiver taken in the first round was going to be JSN, but there ended up being 4 guys. This is a weak class of wide receivers too. So, like, there's a very real chance. You remember the Henry Ruggs draft where it was like Rieger, Ruggs, like
that was Jefferson though too.
Jefferson was in there too. Was he a second round pick or a first?
He was a first.
Yeah, it'll probably be the Vikings again because they're just stealing.
It was like the same spot too. I think it was like 21st.
But so like
that.
Like there's a good chance that some of these guys could just absolutely crap the bed and not be good, and then there's a chance that some of these guys could be really good. I love JSN. But let's talk a little bit about how some of these guys fit in. So JSN was drafted 120 to the Seattle Seahawks. I don't like this. I hate this spot.
That
like I was like,
so
out of
much.
all places, like I would have rather the Chargers, the Ravens, and the Vikings. Like I would have way rather those teams. Patriots had an opportunity twice. I would have rather that spot over Seattle. I see him kind of as like a Tyler Lockett replacement.
Yeah. It sucks year one.
Yes, it sucks year one. So, like, if you're drafting JSN as number 1 wide receiver, because he's still my number 1 wide receiver at this point, at this moment, some of these other guys do shift around a little bit, but it's going to take a little bit. Like, you're going to have to buy him, and it's going to take a little bit of time. And it might be 1-2 years down the road that you finally get the production from JSN, which is what Dynasty is all about. You draft these guys for the future. So, yeah, but he could make an impact year one as a slot receiver because they do like to put Lockett outside. So, I mean, they could do that, but
I just think his ceiling for year one is not as high as it could have been. But yeah, I don't like the spot. Dynasty with receivers, these guys are going to be in the league for like 10 years.
Yep.
So spot doesn't matter. So he's still my wide receiver 1 as well, but it's just a gross landing spot, man. And I will say, like, he was the clear wide receiver 1. Now, to me, I think it's debatable. He's still the wide receiver 1, but the gap between him and the rest of the group closes for me.
Yeah, definitely. Which always happens when you're talking about the draft. There's always a guy that's like, you know, I actually, this complete side note, I find it funny every single year, specifically with the running back position, where a guy that everyone's in love with absolutely just falls off the Sean Tucker, falls off the draft board, and then everyone's trying to be like, oh, undrafted free agent. He go into this team, he's gonna get opportunity. I'm like, he's an undrafted free agent, dude. Like, don't get yourself all. It's over. It's just give up. It's like they get themselves all lathered up with these.
You say that
rookies.
Sean Tucker's gonna get signed on the practice squad and get 20 touchdowns.
But no, so it's like, but like they get themselves all lathered up about these rookies, the wide receivers, the running backs, the quarterbacks, and then they just, you know, some of them, like last year, the quarterback specifically, everyone was all friggin' ready to go with these guys, and none of them got taken high besides Kenny Pickett. And it's like, you know, that killed everything post-draft. So you're looking at this situation this year, obviously, some of these wide receiver landing spots are really weird. But the next pick, which I don't understand. I don't get this in the slightest.
Exactly get it either.
It kind of makes sense slightly.
It does a little bit.
It does,
but it also is.
It's also like, what the hell? So Quentin Johnston goes to the Chargers.
Yeah.
In my mind, what did we say? What did we say about Quentin Johnston? Like, what was his biggest problem?
He plays small.
He plays small. You know who else kind of plays small and in the slot? Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
You know who else is not really wanting to be on the Chargers anymore?
Who?
Keenan Allen.
He's kind of an old man.
He's kind of an old man too. He's 31.
Right.
At first, I saw this pick, and both of our reaction was they already have this guy. His name is Mike Williams.
But totally different players.
I don't think he's going to play Mike Williams' role. I think they're going to put him in the slot.
Yeah. So that's the thing is like the only as at first that's what I thought, but the only comparable between Mike Williams and Quentin Johnston is their size.
Yep.
But they play totally different. Mike Williams is exactly what Quentin Johnston's not. He's a jump ball guy. Yep. He's a one-on-one contested catch guy. He high points the ball, all that stuff. Quentin Johnston's a big guy who plays small. But to me, that's why, like, if the Chargers were going to draft a receiver, I thought it was going to be like a Zay Flowers.
Yeah.
Like somebody who's a true slot guy who's shifty and can complement Mike Williams really well. But if you think about it, Quentin Johnston's kind of that guy. He's just a big version of it. So I do kind of get the pick, but it's kind of weird. Overall, though, I do like the landing spot because he's about to be with Justin Herbert for the next 5 years.
Yeah, so to me, it depends on, like, I'll really like the pick if Keenan Allen gets moved or they
probably won't,
him.
But it's like the Lockett thing. Like,
yeah.
And there's a chance he's out before Lockett is. Like, I think Keenan Allen might be off the Chargers, if not before the year. I think he'll play this year, but probably next year.
I have a share of Quentin Johnston and no draft. I mean, a share of Keenan Allen and no draft selections, and I really don't know what to do with them. I traded Mike Williams for him, so the future-wise, that does not look good. I got to go figure out receiver now. I still got AJ Brown though, so we're good. But no, I agree. I think it's gonna be it's kind of a weird landing spot. I think in the long run, it's gonna be good. I think it's actually better than JSN's landing spot.
I agreed. Yes. For sure.
So, but if I was a betting man, I'd say Quentin Johnston plays a slot.
I would agree. I think they might try him on the X at first just because Keenan is still there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's going to shift around and end up in the slot.
He's a round one selection, so it's like they're going to use him.
For sure.
All right, next wide receiver off the board in that round was Zay Flowers to the Ravens. This is a great / horrible landing spot because this team throws the ball literally 400 times a year, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so it's like when you talk about target distribution, guys like Mark Andrews are going to get the ball. They don't really throw it to the running back position. Bateman's going to get the ball probably like 120 times. You still have Odell, not still, but you have Odell there now, who's probably going to get like 100-something targets as well. So it's like when you talk about target distribution at this point, there's only like, I would say probably like 60 to 70 targets left for Zay. And like, I don't like that. So I don't think Odell will be there for long, to be completely honest with you.
That's fair.
Or he'll get hurt. So there's still some ceiling here for Zay Flowers.
Yes.
But and what I've seen them have a lot of success with, which this is an interesting draft selection because what we've always seen them have a lot of success with is Mark Andrews in those, seam streaks inside.
Uh-huh.
And hitting, inside the cover 2 and cover 3 zones, on the middle portion of the field. And where does Zay Flowers excel? Those vertical seam streaks in the inside of the field. I could totally see him line up into the slot and then utilize him in the same route trees almost as a Mark Andrews. Obviously not in the same way because Mark Andrews is a brick and runs people over, but like you could see JSN in that role where they take guys up the middle. I saw it last year. Zay Flowers, yeah. So I don't mind it. It's a team that doesn't really have a lot of receivers. You know what I mean? And so it's like he's instantly going to play as at camp the third best receiver. Maybe the
fourth,
second best.
Though, if you include Andrews.
Fourth if you include Andrews, yeah. But like just talking about wide receivers. But it's the target share that I'm concerned about with the Ravens.
Yeah, and I think I keep thinking like this, and I'm like, I feel like they have to throw the ball more, and they will. I think they do have a new offensive coordinator. It's not Greg Roman anymore. They paid Lamar Jackson all this money.
Yeah. You
pay Odell all this money. You spend a first-round pick on a receiver. It feels like they're going to throw the ball more. So that would be a good thing for Flowers. I do think he starts the year off as the wide receiver 3 like these other guys.
Yeah.
But these other guys don't also have a tight end who's the number 1 receiver on the team. So he comes in as, to me, as the 4th receiving option year 1, which is very gross. I think long term though, it could end up being a good landing spot. Because I agree Odell's going to get hurt or not stay there long. Rashad Bateman has had injury histories as well. So he could end up moving up the depth chart. But as of today, with everyone healthy, I do not like the landing spot. I still really like the player, but still draft him. But based on all these landing spots, to me, I think he's probably the 4th receiver I draft of these guys in fantasy. I think they go back.
Yeah.
I still would go back to back with them. And he was my wide receiver 2 pre-draft. I think he's probably my wide receiver 4
Same
post-draft.
Thing for me. It's tough.
I still would draft him though.
It's
not like he's off my board.
Now that they have football teams attached to them.
Yeah.
It's kind of like all of them get a lot closer, but I do think that, like, if Odell was not there, say he never signed, I would feel a lot better about this because
I would feel better. Yeah, I still though it's the Ravens, the stench of not throwing the ball.
Right, but I love this guy. Honestly, is probably a steal in rookie drafts at this point. But
yeah,
I loved Rashad Bateman pre-draft, and then he got drafted by Baltimore, and I was like, golly, dude. So it's like he's the only receiver there, but I do like Zay more as a prospect, believe it or not.
Wow.
So I think there's a chance that he could ascend above Rashad Bateman, and they clearly think that too, based on draft capital. So
true.
I think they'll probably slot him as the second guy behind Odell.
That means poor Bateman.
At some point, yeah, poor Bateman.
Or Odell's the 3rd guy.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is like Odell's going to get hurt, right?
Probably.
All right, let's talk about the next guy. My favorite wide receiver landing spot in the 1st round and probably in the draft is Jordan Addison to the Vikings. This is gold. This is absolute freaking gold. He is going to play. Get out. The best slot receiver class we've had in years. Who's going to play slot? Jordan Addison. He's going to take over for a guy who's actually gone. Like we talk about these other 2 teams who still have slot receivers.
Tyler Lockett.
This
Keenan
team does
Allen.
not have a slot receiver. They're like, hey, you know what? We're going to replace him. Adam Thielen last year, 107 targets. Who's going to take those targets? It's not going to be KJ Osborne. He had 90 as well, by the way.
It's going all to Addison.
It's all going to Addison. And he is going to have 120, 130 targets this year. And what happens with Addison is entirely up to how successful he is in the NFL. So love this landing spot. Think it's great. This guy is now, I would say, ranking these 4 players. JSN 1, Jordan Addison 2, Quentin Johnston 3, Zay Flowers 4.
It. There you go. I'm not that different. I like the landing spot as well. The only thing I will say is, like, year 1 and year 2, he's going to have to be, I think, best positioned to succeed immediately.
Yeah.
But do you ever see him being like a true wide receiver 1 with Jefferson on that team?
No, but when I don't see him as a true wide receiver 1 to begin with. I look at all of these guys as slot receivers. So
that's true. Like, I feel like, though, JSN maybe one day could be a wide receiver 1.
Could be. I don't think Jordan Addison will, but like you saw this fantasy football success that
for sure.
A guy like not Keenan Allen, what the hell's his name? Adam Thielen had over the course of his career, even with a Stefan Diggs or a Justin Jefferson. So if Jordan Addison plays that role, he's fine.
No, I absolutely agree. For me, I think they're all super close, which is why, like, I have Zay Flowers at 4, but I'm still okay with drafting him there at I've seen him go like 109. Like, I think that's still pretty solid value. But I have JSN 1. I go Quentin Johnston 2, being connected with Herbert. Jordan Addison 3, and then Zay Flowers falls to number 4.
Okay.
But I think Addison might be the best receiver you want.
Okay. We're going to change up how we're going to structure this show. If you were listening for the first 5 minutes, now you're confused. Second round, third round, fourth round, fifth round, sixth round, seventh round, all the rounds we're going to talk about on Thursday's show.
The day 1 show.
This is the day 1 show. So we'll talk about the rest of them because they'll probably go a heck of a lot faster as we go through some of the players. But last one we'll talk about on this show, and the 10th guy, final guy drafted in the first round in terms of offensive player skill position, Dalton Kincaid to the Bills. Now,
You look upset.
This is a good draft selection for the Bills. Kincaid's a good player. Dynasty, I'd take him.
I love it.
Because he could be really good. He's going to be similar to Cole Beasley.
Yep.
In the slot. He's going to kind of play that role.
Yep.
And with Josh Allen, this could, he could become a really, really good player. Now, so it's a great landing spot, obviously. Winner. To everyone who thinks that this guy is going to come out year one and be a huge success when they have Dawson Knox on the football team already, like, please sit down. Like, what are you doing? I heard somebody on a podcast, just football-wise, talking about the Bills. And they're like, the Bills got better with that draft selection. They're going to be so much harder to defend. And I'm like, when Dalton Kincaid plays in 4 years. Like, what am I doing? I get it.
Yeah,
First round pick. He's going to be on the field probably this year. But, like, can we stop? These tight ends. I told you with Kyle Pitts. I told you.
He had 1,000 yards as a rookie.
Good. Yeah, he was fine. Couldn't score any touchdowns, though. Like, I told you. And he was.
But this guy's on the Bills.
This guy's on the Bills. Yeah, I know. But I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of guys that get the ball for the Bills. And, like, Kincaid's going to be, like, the fourth on the tree.
Year one.
Maybe fifth. And, like, I don't know how much time he's actually going to play. So, like, my thing is just, like, rookie tight ends take time to develop. There's going to be a big one this year, I think, because there's so many rookie tight ends. Like, they were really good. So, like, I think it's going to be a guy. I don't think it's going to be Kincaid.
Okay.
So, anyway, great landing spot. I draft him. If he's in this late second round, I'd probably take him there.
I took him in the first.
Okay.
I drafted him. So, which shows you my opinion on this guy. He's the best pass catcher. Everything you heard about him going in, he's the best pass catching tight end. Okay. He's basically a big receiver. People pre-draft compared him to Travis Kelce as like a pure like receiving tight end who, he's not a great blocker, but he's not like a bad blocker. He's more of just a pure receiving tight end. And you put him on the Bills, which throw the ball 650 times a season. Yeah. And Josh Allen actually, believe it or not, likes a lot of slot guys, and he's going to play the slot year one. Dawson Knox, you're right. I think that the hype for him is a little out of control in terms of year one. Mm-hmm. I think, Diggs is still the guy. Gabe Davis is still the second guy. Dawson Knox is still probably the tight end there. But to me, Dawson Knox is more of a blocking tight end. And if they'd use both guys, again, year one, I don't know. But going forward, it's going to be Dalton Kincaid as the passing tight end, or the receiving tight end. And to me, after you get to, I took him at the end of the first round, so it was the last pick of the first round. Yeah. After you get to the 109 in Dynasty, and you'll see this, unless you want Will Levis, it becomes just an absolute crapshoot. Like, it becomes the Seahawks running back who they drafted. We'll talk about in the next show. It becomes some of these second and third round running backs that landing in weird spots. It's like Hendon Hooker. Like, to me, Dalton Kincaid becomes the best player available there. Yeah. And he has a real chance long term to be a top three, like this Travis Kelce, the George Kittle, the Mark Andrews. Like, he's going to be, to me, in that category. He has a real shot to be in that category in a couple years. And I wouldn't even say year 4. I would say like year 2 or year 3.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, year 4 was strong for me, so I apologize for the strongness. I'm just sick and tired of people getting all lubed up on a player.
Yeah, like year 1, he's not getting 100 catches.
I think like Knox is probably going, because he does have a repertoire with with Josh Allen. Like, he's going to at least start the season getting that work. And I think they're going to try to involve Kincaid, but I just don't think this is a long-term situation on the offensive side of the ball. I don't think this is a short-term thing for the offensive side of the ball. I think this is a long-term play. I don't think they necessarily like Dawson Knox as like a a featured receiving tight end like Rick said. And I think that their solution is to have this guy come in and play, when they let Dawson Knox walk, or they just change his role. So I think thinking that he's going to come out the box as a tight end one is strong. So we'll see. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm not drafting him this year in redraft. That is.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Okay. Okay, I think we're gonna stop there, and then we'll talk about round 2, 3, and the rest of these guys. In a later show, on Thursday or Friday, whenever it comes out. So there you go. I almost hit the wrong button. There are your NFL draft winners and losers for round 1. We're gonna talk about 2, 3, 4, and the rest of the rounds on Thursday, Friday, whatever day it comes out. Be sure to check that out. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Leave in the comments who your favorite draft selection was. See you later, guys.
Take it easy.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.